What do we got from Jot? Why player quit MMO chat or gaming in general, I guess. What you got for it, Josh?
You quit playing. Maybe life got hectic and you simply didn't have enough time to keep playing. Maybe you
Or
played
money.
for a few hours and slowly decided, nope, this isn't for me. Or maybe there was a moment you suddenly and instantly decided, no, I'm not playing this anymore. As a games designer, identifying the quit moment
Don't
means
worry, I've been keeping
understanding
a
why
cheesy part away
players
from my
stop
controls.
playing your game. And it is probably the most important aspect of player-based growth and player retention. So let's examine some popular quit moments and then discuss what you, as a designer, could do about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Josh Strife Hayes. Your time is valuable, it's finite, and game designers fight to get even a small amount of it. An hour, a day. In the case of MMORPGs, games designed to be played for weeks, months and years, games designers need to give you things to do, reasons to stay. But there is an opposite side of game design, and that is the quit moment. The moment a player decides they no longer want to play your game, and understanding it...
Maybe they ban half of the player base? Yeah. Yeah. There are more than a few MMOs I can think of that have done that. It would never win. Oh, there you go. See, Kun gotcha. Yeah, never went or what that was. But yeah, there's a lot of MMO that does that where it's like, oh, that glitch is on us, and I'll ban you. Hell, even Sega have done that, so.
It's probably one of the most important parts of game design. So let's have a look at what you need to consider could be quit moments if you want to make a game.
Before we dive into this phenomenon, consider dropping a like on the video or subscribing to the channel for more gaming stuff. Ring the bell for all the future notifications.
Oh, would you?
As usual, a massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon.
Yeah, I only ever played Neverwinter for like maybe a day or two, and that was like it.
Now, let's begin. For your game to succeed, especially an MMORPG, you need to find and then keep players. And every step of the journey in buying a game, from hearing about it for the first time to visiting the shop or the website, paying, installing, downloading, launching, creating an account, or logging in, is a hurdle you as a games designer need to think about. Because players now have such an overwhelming choice of games, anything less than a super smooth journey is going to lose you players. For every single
why we're talking about the point with Play Online.
Process, for every second of delay or moment of annoyance, you will lose players. Every minor difficulty is a potential quit moment, and then later gameplay aspects are potential quit moments also. So let's look at the journey of a player and identify the major quit moments. Now, many of you might hear the quit moments I describe and instantly want to argue back, saying, oh, you wouldn't quit, or oh, you could just do X, Y, or Z instead. You could fix the problem. Or how players who quit there are wimps or crybabies. And look, it's not about how well you can handle something.
And just for the record, just because you can handle it now, don't mean you're going to be able to handle it 6 months from now, a year from now. Because that weigh on you, and also the older you get, the less patience you have for this shit. So, you know, that the whole thing of being like, I'm never going to be owing Queen at the crowd, and then 3 months later you owing Queen at the crowd. It happened to all but chat.
This is a discussion about general player retention. While we analyse these moments, we're leaving our own personal emotions out of it and identifying the problem areas for retention within design. A few days ago, I was trying to download Lord of the Rings Online for an episode of Worst MMO Ever. I downloaded the game from Steam, launched it, and it auto-minimized itself. It did not work first try. Now, I have a lot of patience and I'm going to try and fix it, but this right here is a quit moment. If your game doesn't launch instantly and smoothly, there's a lot of players who will simply delete and move on. Now personally, I re-downloaded from the main website. I did some troubleshooting, I read some forums, reinstalled some Windows frameworks, even downloaded and ran DirectX drivers from June 2010 because the game doesn't work with DirectX 12. I ran every executable in these files in various compatibility modes. I spent 5 hours trying to make this work and it didn't.
Oh God.
That was my quit moment.
Gaben, the guy behind Steam, once said that piracy is not necessarily an issue of price, it's an issue of accessibility and availability. People want to take the path of least resistance to play a game. If they could download a game for free, but they have to go through a complex series of downloading hacks and patches and port forwarding and changing it around, or they could just pay £5 to get the game to work immediately, most people are actually going to pay the £5. People are lazy. They don't want to work hard to get the game they want to play to work.
Yeah, it was like that. Like that was like the main thing. Like back in the day, back when we did stuff outside of this. But of like back in the day, like I remember I used to download like everything off like Pirate Bay off of like BitTorrent fan subs and whatnot, and then it just like hit a point where like I can just pay like $5, not have to deal with any of the stuff that come with that, file corruption, viruses, like shadiness, like my internet randomly getting shut off because of copyright infringement, since my IFP does that, which I know a lot of them do, and like to the point where like, oh yeah, you in an area that literally a monopoly, but if you download like 2 copyright things, we're gonna ban your account and you can never get an account with it ever again. And like, well, at that point, I guess I gotta move, X number of counties over, and hope the internet ain't real half as good and not. And just like, yeah, at that point, like, no, I just pay the $5 and not deal with this shit. You know? And also see yeah, the whole SSS and burnout. I hate to admit that, but y'all got some good taste in games. Shh, don't tell him I said that, chat.
If you can provide a product in an easy, simple way, people will pay for that. Players want a smooth experience in gaming, and every single issue, every minute problem that a player faces, from the moment they hear about your game to the moment they start playing it, is a potential lost player.
So let's imagine you've downloaded the game and played, say, a free trial, like Final Fantasy XIV, and now you decide to try and buy the game, to give them money. Well, in Final Fantasy XIV's case, this is far too complicated, with a convoluted payment process using websites that look like they were made in the late 90s.
The joke's on you, Josh, because they was. Hell, the Final Fantasy XI website still built in tables, for God's sakes. What, my copy? I know, I believe I have the original SSS. I know I have Burnout 3. Because Burnout 3 is still my favorite Burnout. Time Twiddles. God, so sadly, I don't have Time Twiddle anymore. Went about it. The only like issue, man, about like I would love like the two things would be like for me if if he couple like any of them, I would love for him to couple 11 and PSO for obvious reasons. But man, 11 is like one of them cases of like I kind of feel like what you're talking about in that video, especially like right now, especially with Lords of the Ring, it just I don't know if people get through that, especially with Final Fantasy 11 still being, pay and subscription, since, he have stated he don't want to play private server just because, what comes of that. But it like one of the reasons, like to this day, like the main reason why, especially after Horizon came out, and seeing how streamlined you can make the play online experience. Like, don't get me wrong, we lost friend lists and whatnot, but if like that just showed like if William had wanted to, they could get that ideally working. Well, it should be another login similar to 14. You log in on a launcher, you can go straight to the game. And the question is, do they want to spend that kind of money to do that, or care to do that? But to let's be honest, it's like I would still be subscribed to Final Fantasy 11 like retail if it wasn't like, oh, okay, I just stopped for a month and now it's gonna be like a 5-6 hour process to get my account activated again. Like if that wasn't the case, it's like, my God, I'd still be playing like retail 11. But like that bigger like anxiety is literally what Jock was talking about. Just like I'm like getting it walking is just a pain in the ass. But hey, how you doing, Bank? Welcome. You just in time. We talking about like quitting design and gaming with Josh, and talking about like Final Fantasy and trying to get Jock to play Final Fantasy 11, and then Jock bringing up the issue with growing the onboarding process, like. You need to be like way better in 14. It's still not ideal. like at all. But I would love to see Drop play 11. Just because of like 11 is such like retail. It's such a. I get the better way to put it. Pretty much the same issue we had with PSO when it came out in global. Only just saying 20 yields instead of 10 yields of just content on top of content, and it's still really good. But Final Fantasy is still like very vague in many aspects. Because like I have said, if you're doing anything beyond leveling, and even then you better have a strategy guide up at all times. And I would love to hear Josh's opinion of it, especially with how broken the whole like Unity points, whatever the point was called, and how you can just break the economy super fast if you wanted to. Paradise was disappointing. Yeah, I like Paradise, but man, like Burnout 3 is just a whole different thing. I when it comes to Burnout and when it comes to a lot of racing games, I like closed circuit more than open. Like I don't mind in like for the Horizon because they technically do both technically. But yeah, I've never been a big fan of like the whole like, oh, big map, get from point A to point B, have at it, type of design when it comes to racing game. But yeah, I don't mind like racing going from like point A to point B and like doing side activity like Horizon does. But when it literally is like, like Midnight Club, Paradise, like yeah, Paradise did have side activity, but still, they're very much just, it's nothing more than just a hub. And then, the design of the ways it still technically take advantage of the hub, I'm not a big fan of. He was looking at 11. Wait, was he? Okay, if they have done videos or anything, let me know, Goon. Cause I'm all for like new people experiencing 11. Might be a Horizon 14. Honestly, I know there are like a handful. I don't know how far they have come, but I know there's like a handful of projects out there of people trying to do a private server of 1.0. Like I said, I don't know how accurate that have got and how, ease of use it is like Horizon. But hell, if like, I think honestly, like the one thing the Horizon dev have shown, like I know some people complain about X, Y, and Z or changing X, Y, and Z, whatever. But like, as far like the easiness of onboarding, like that alone is just like shit, man. That is obviously some skill in there. So I wouldn't be against it.
You'll need a Final Fantasy username, but also a Square Enix account, and buying the base game might not include game time, but buying expansions doesn't include the base game, and the time cards are separate. Yep. Look, giving Final Fantasy 14 money is a really...
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like, the whole Final Fantasy account and then a Square Enix account on top of that, which in between equaling 2 different name, 2 different password. And then, not counting, then you throw like play online on that for 11. It's like, fuck, come on, Square Enix. Like, that the only reason I wish the rumor of them, like, being like, oh, you sub to 14, you can play 11 for free. That's probably your sub now. Like, or, pay, like, if you want to play 14, pay $2 more. Now you got 14 unlocked on your account. Like, because, 14 is, what, $15 a month? And 11 is 12, if I remember correctly. But, God. If we can just get rid of, like, the multiple logins, that'd be great. And yo, Z, how you doing, Z? How you doing tonight? Yeah, I couldn't make the game free. The whole thing be complicated. Yeah, like I don't even like. It's like one of them cases at that point. I feel I could be totally wrong. It could be me talking out my ass here, but I feel like when it comes to 11, it's like one of them things. I feel like the architecture for it is like so like archaic with how old it is to make it actually go free to play would involve like rebuilding a lot of that game from scratch, similar to like how what Horizon did, or any other private server, and then having to as well input way to monetize it. And I just don't think we're going to care enough to do that. You know, like one of them cases of like it's just a nice little like side, you know, financial like coming in, but not like to a point of being bad enough to shut down or good enough to put any thought behind it. It just kind of exists beyond like the bare minimum stuff they do to it. That's what 11 feel like anyway. So I don't think 11 will ever go free to play. And also, I know Queen have said in the past that I don't know the statement still stand because it's been, God, like a decade now. But I know Queen back in the day was like, yeah, we will for a game to get shut down, then ever go free to play. I don't know that have changed, or maybe the whole thing of now Japan will play with shutting it down. People play with NFTs. I don't know, but still.
Really hard process for an average player. This right here, another quit moment. I guarantee there are players who stopped playing the game because this system isn't as simple as it could be.
Me and 11.
Responding saying, well, I figured it out. Great,
I figure it out, and it still give me PTSD anytime I have to think about it.
Glad you did. But if you were a games designer, would you actively choose to leave a system in the design, in the live service of the game, that could potentially lose you money? So let's say you've downloaded and paid, and now you go to play, and you log in, and you have no idea what to do. That moment of complete directionless in any game, that overwhelming early game agency with no foundation or framework of what you might, possibly, could, should be doing, that's a quit moment. And it all comes back to the moment of feeling overwhelmed. The reason I'm a fan of tutorials
Sam have quit.
into the early game
I quit a lot of games.
Because giving early game direction is the best way to teach all relevant mechanics you as a player will need, and then once the tutorial has done its job simply and effectively, you can release the player into a greater world, knowing they will follow the skills you've given them. Warframe does this relatively well. The opening tutorial is fantastic, and when you're released onto the ship, suddenly the adventure line is dropped, and your choices become overwhelming. If you've ever played Path of Exile, you probably had a great...
That's the reason, like, every time I play Warframe, I always just been like, if I continue with my same character, I have no idea what I'm doing. At all. And the whole reason why I have restarted Warframe more times than I can count.
Early game time, but try to remember how you felt the first time you opened the skill tree. I have friends who straight...
So for the record, when I originally saw this, that was the main reason why I played Path of Exile. Because this is just a feel good from Final Fantasy X, and I love the feel good so much. Like, if a game have a feel good to the extent, I will play it no matter what.
Straight up told me they quit when they saw this screen. Now, you might love the screen, and that's because the Path of Exile skill system is fantastic. It's an incredibly complicated, remarkably deep, enjoyable system. There's nothing wrong with the system. But if you have players saying they quit when they saw how it was presented, there is definitely something wrong with the introduction to the system.
Now, I'm not saying remove complex systems from games. Not at all. Games need complex systems, and it's interesting and valuable to the end game to have a lot of complexity. What I'm saying is they need to be introduced slowly, in a curated way, to not scare off your early game player. If you as a game designer have spent months creating this incredible system, you will have months of understanding of it, and it will probably require months of understanding to fully grasp. If you throw all this information at a new player, you're expecting them to take in months of information in one go. That's overwhelming. You can be proud of your in-depth system, but if you introduce it far too quickly, don't be surprised if a lot of new players, especially new gamers that have chosen your game as their first foray into gaming, get overwhelmed and leave.
But what if it's all going well so far? You've bought the game fine, it's downloaded and installed fine, it's launched, and the early game is really enjoyable and the learning curve is smooth and you're making constant progress. There's not been any single overwhelming moment yet. Imagine you play for a few hours, you gain some items, gain some power, and then you die to an enemy. If it's an unfair death, as in you were combo stun locked or one hit from off screen or the enemy has millions of times more health than you do, that's a quit moment. It sounds so simple when you say it out loud, but many...
I literally had this experience last night, by the way, chat. Because I had a little bit of time last night. I hopped in. oh god, what was it called? It was like, I think endurance. It was. I don't remember the exact name of it at the time because I have slept since then. But it was one of the last demos I played. I need to look and see also what demos are still available today now that Steam Net Fat over. But nonetheless, like I had a little bit of like motivation last night, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make a very quick like preview video. So I downloaded the game. The game itself is pretty much just Metal Gear Rising and what it is. Like I say, you want to see the video of it up on my gameplay channel and my TikTok as well. Of like a preview of it. But nonetheless, like when I was playing that, like the demo is literally like 10 minutes at best. 10, 20 minutes. And literally I went into that exact issue. Well, just like the environment was so big for the fights that and enemies in that game could like, you know, zip to you and hit you. There was so many times I'd be fighting like a dude. It's someone I can't even see. All I hear is like a ding noise to be like, you know, supposed to be like, hey, block. But it literally, they, like, the second the noise play is when they hit you. So it like, I don't understand well how that operates, but whatever. But like, so many times I'd be like fighting one dude, an enemy would just come in, hit me, and then vanish out of my eyesight. Because the area was so big and they could carry so much distance. And just like, I hit a point where I'm like, nope, fuck this shit, I'm out. So, I know exactly what you're talking about because I went through that last night.
Younger designers forget that balancing your combat encounters to feel challenging while not being unfair is essential. So let's imagine you fight and you lose fairly. You respawn and all of your items and some of your experience is gone. That right there is a major quit moment for a huge amount of players. And I know, I can already see the YouTube comments from old EverQuest or Ultima players screaming about how modern day special Snowflake players aren't able to handle tough deaths or whining about losing items, but just...
Yeah, this is like one of them cases, no matter how much I love it in Final Fantasy 11, I do realize that well, just like... Cause I'm, like I've talked about many times, like one of the ideals of Final Fantasy 11, EverQuest, and whatnot fall into that camp of dying and losing hours of progress with your experience loss is what made that game terrifying, and what made that game, for the most part, like don't get me wrong, I know once you get higher level it gets so, but especially at like below level 30, 40 for the most part, is, you know, that level of being terrified constantly and the threat that come with that. And like for me, it kind of like that same like dopamine hit that you get from like a soul game when you have like, you know, a couple billion souls on you and you don't know what the net bonfire is and you just worry at any moment one enemy could look at me, I could die and lose it all. Like that like dopamine hit from that is what I really love in like 11 and other MMOs that well from that time. And I know for a fact, like, you know, not a lot of people really, you know, care about that. And just literally, like, yeah, that's literally a no-go for them. But at the same time, it's like that also is what make the game feel so much more immersion for me, at least. But yeah, I still get it, though.
Think. The modern MMO player has often matured along with the gaming genre, and many MMO players have jobs, families, and responsibilities outside of the game.
Yeah,
and to put it
MMO
simply,
lean more older in
progress
general.
isn't as appealing as it was back when you were young. Invested time being lost isn't an enjoyable mechanic for a huge amount of players, and it is undoubtedly, whether you personally enjoy it or not, one of the most powerful quit moments in the MMO gameplay experience. I understand there are players who like this type of design. There is a market for a more hardcore, unforgiving experience.
Yeah, because this is like one of the things of trying to like keep the balance of like focus and giving the player options to go through it the way they want, and being open enough to leave to like story to be created from the playing of the game or the player base. But at the same time, is like being completely blank can indeed go horribly wrong, especially depending on the player and what they are affecting, and how much time and patience they have in general.
We're not discussing which is better. We're looking at identifiable moments in a gaming experience that will lose you players. Imagine playing an online game and suddenly you're attacked by other over-leveled players and killed, and all of your stuff is taken in an unfair, non-consensual moment of PvP. That is a moment a lot of players are going to quit. One major factor MMO designers often forget is
also that the whole thing of like not meaning like that game, that like ideal like PvP stuff can't be successful. I think it just nowadays is like the game got to be built around it and be upfront about it, such as like survival games or Topcraft or anyone that still do stuff like that. Is if you're going to play Topcraft as example, you're going into that. Well, with MMOs and how like vast MMOs are with them design, any if they all technically the same, like design aspect, but parts of it is different. Or just different between losing affiliate to losing docility to losing time. It like, you get a penalty with bullshit. And if you're not going into it knowing that is the thing, that one thing that indeed can be like a turn off, But if you go into it knowing that gonna be a thing, it can be a heavy turn on for a lot.
Time constraints. Yes, the MMO is a genre that can reward multi-hour long playing sessions, but if they are required, players simply won't log in. If a player only has 30 minutes to play and they think there's no point logging in, that is the potential birth of a future quit moment. I've asked people who play hardcore MMOs about the player base, and they've told me if you don't have several hours free a day, don't play this MMO, and then they wonder why months down the line the game is dying. Your player base need to know, even if they only have a short amount of time to play, it is still worth logging in. Because if it isn't, you are sitting on a quit moment.
Yeah, that right there is what I have talked about for PSO many times, of like, you gotta have carrots on the stick as early as humanly possible for new player beyond credit cards. Because any of like, like most people will go on about in-game being important, and it is. But the beginning and in-game is equally as important. And the mid-game should be more designed around taking, both aspects and to use as a way for the player to build up, and that it will, like, the more sandboxy stuff start kicking in of, like, do you want to do your dungeon? Do you want to do your daily? Do you want to do reputation? Do you want PvP? Do you want to do crafting? And, like, that is the mid-game right there. And the thing is, in most MMOs, just kind of more so lean more into, the relevant stuff coming out at that moment, or more into in-game stuff. The whole reason why, like, Final Fantasy 14 got the reputation it got of, like, yeah, just get through the 300 hours of garbage and then it's good, ideal. And a lot of MMO have that as well. Or, you have PSO that is, good, see through the crack, will like how bad it is, get it, and then by the time you fully come to term where you hit in-game, it will like credit cards. It's just like, you gotta have a good beginning that keep the player and lean player down the ideal, realizing how the mechanic play with each other. That way, when they hit mid-game, they will have their own goal, their own focus, that then will, like, bottle back down into in-game. It literally like the choose your own adventure, like, gameplay design of, like, you start out closed, you open up big, and then you close back in for the ending. And the problem is that, like, a lot of MMO design should admit that. Maybe it's because a lot of MMO design is kind of built on the fly, just stuff being added over time, instead of being designed in a way of being like, for the game or the expansion, knowing like, this is our beginning, this is our middle, this is our end, this is our Zap roadmap. Where most stuff is just constantly shifting around, or being like thought of like 1 year and then a year and a half later in the game, when there was still content that was, planned out day one that still haven't even made it because it just get pushed or dropped or whatever. And then in return, like, that content, instead of being built around the stuff that just recently got added, it built around stuff that is so early on and doesn't connect to anything. And that is like the biggest issue of like design though.
Time bomb.
It might sound like I'm just whining about game design that I don't personally like, but it's actually more objective than that. Identifying the quit moments is essential to maintaining your player base, especially in an MMORPG. The first M is massively, and if you want to have a massive player base, it's about finding why players stop playing. What are the quit moments, and how can you remove them?
An overwhelming starting area with no direction or framework given to a player. An unbalanced PvP experience. A blatant and obtrusive pay-to-win cash shop thrust into your face. Awkward or uncustomizable controls or key bindings. Public opinion of your company turning bad. Individuals linked to the game being revealed to be questionable people. Even a lack of players caused by so many previous players quitting. All of these and more are quit moments, and they are what is harming your game. Every single moment the player has any interaction or experience with your game, even if they aren't playing it, even if they're just hearing about it, downloading it, installing it, or launching it for the first time, or if they're playing it for the 1000th hour, has the potential to become a quit moment. You ever heard someone say, "I'm not going to play that game because," and then they give a reason? That's a quit moment before they even begin. I'm not playing Eve because it's just spreadsheets in space. I'm not playing the Elder
PSO
Scrolls Online because I've been told the combat is bad. I'm not playing Final Fantasy XIV because it takes too long to finish. I'm not playing RuneScape because the graphics are old. Quit moments don't just affect your current player base. They actually damage your potential player base too because they prevent new players joining. So let's...
Yeah, that literally like the other thing I've talked about with PSO of just like when people look at PSO right now, what they think of. Like, they probably heard the game is boring, dying, overly complex, which menuing, pay to win, nothing. They just do, money shop stuff constantly instead of adding content. Like, any of some of that stuff may be true, might not be true, maybe a little exaggerated. Like, reputation matters. And that's the main reason I have talked about before of why if Sega was more prepared or were more open with the community when NGS came out, could have went a very long way. Or, like I said, by just putting in all the assets as well. Like, reputation matters. First impression matters. And when you have a game that people are extremely excited for that don't live up to it because of X, Y, and Z, that will become the narrative that will be moving forward no matter if you only heard about PSO yesterday, Too many boobies, isn't it, CM? That's what happens. That's what happens when you make better stuff for waifus.
Imagine a perfect scenario of easy to buy, easy to play, and a feeling of challenge and fair balanced combat and a genuinely fun experience. Then let's say life gets hectic and you don't log in for a few days, or a few weeks, or a few months, and then you return to the game and you can't remember what you're doing, or what your skills or abilities do,
Me and
or how your class plays. That moment right there is a quit moment felt by a returning player. I want you to remember the last time you tried to return to an RPG, whether that's an online MMO or an offline single-player game, and you logged into an old character or an old save and you just didn't remember what you were doing. So you run around the familiar world with the familiar-looking UI and the familiar-sounding music, but the actual experience feels so unfamiliar. Like you're an observer watching an avatar explore, instead of a player being engaged and exploring with your avatar. Have you ever...
That might tell the reason why we thought of so many RPGs growing up.
Return to a game you've left for a while and felt a heavy distance between you and the screen, like you're watching a stranger in a strange land instead of your character in your game. That feeling is one of the slowest, most creeping quit moments you can have. The moment you realize the emotion's gone and you're playing because of familiarity and sunk cost. If life got hectic and you return to your favorite game only to feel something's not the same, that is the overwhelming moment we talked about earlier. That feeling of, where am I? What am I doing? How do my skills work again? This is how new players feel being greeted by too much too soon. Now imagine people feeling that as they log on for the first time. That empty feeling of loneliness when you return to an old RPG because you just cannot understand or remember what you need to do. That's how overwhelmed players feel. That's why people quit. Oh, quick side note about returning to old classic games. I'll be launching a new channel called Josh Strife Plays, where I review and critique old video games voted on by you, from the SNES era up to now.
Oh, I didn't realize we were voting.
Like this channel for reviews, but with all types of genres and not just MMOs. Link in the description if that's something you'd be interested in.
I spent 5 hours trying to make Lord of the Rings Online work, and I couldn't. That's definitely a quit moment for some people. When I returned to Neverwinter, a game I've loved for many, many years, I discovered that I'm no longer powerful. All of my stats have been reset and all my equipment is worthless. That's definitely a quit moment for a returning player.
The love of doing complete rebound.
The moment I see the skill tree, I personally like the idea of theory crafting the best, but I'm completely aware that is a quit moment for a vast majority of players. It's not about removing these systems. It's not about
reason people hated a good system.
It's about
feel good
finding
system
a way
and
to introduce the systems in your game that maintain and retain the maximum amount of players.
If you're making a game or you're interested in game design, identify the quit moment. Find the reason players stop or don't continue when they try to return. Then ask yourself why. Figure out how to change the design to remove the quit moment. The more quit moments you can remove, from purchase to install to account creation to gameplay, the longer your player base will grow and thrive. The healthiest, most successful long-term games don't necessarily have the best gameplay or the best mechanics or even the best graphics. They simply have the fewest quit moments. But what do you think? What made you quit a game last? What needs to change about your favourite game to stop new players quitting before they get a chance to become old players? Leave a comment down below. Thank you for watching. Another massive thank you to the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep the channel going. You can support from only £1 a month. Check the video description for links to the Patreon, Twitch, Twitter, Discord, and the new channel Josh Strife Plays. And as always, have a great day.
Yeah, I'm kind of with him on that. Like, a lot of the stuff he pointed out was, like, legit. Because I know for me, like, the thing that made me quit, like I said, dealing with shitty compatibility for installation, such as play online, and as well, like I said, Warframe is a perfect example of that. Path to Exile will be another example of this. When I go back, because eventually I will, because I really do like them games, it's just time commitment up, is like, we'll absolutely just start anew. Because, like, I honestly do not remember anything, really. Like, don't get me wrong, like, at a handful of stuff, like, oh, I probably could figure out again, but the other thing that is, you know, such an other thing that was brought up, of literally the game just being completely reworked, and all the stats are dead, and abilities are gone, other ability been, like, renamed, been changed, the rotation didn't, the item didn't, like, they're not counting, like, the in-between, like, little details, such as, like, the call system in Warframe, like, yeah, that one of them cases of, like, the main reason why I'm not playing Warframe right now is, like, no matter how much I like it, I know if I want to play it, and I want to play it, like, consistency, same thing go for I get ESO as well, is I know I don't have the time to commit to it beyond, you know, maybe a few streams, and also no guarantee that, you know, them streams will even be successful. So that a whole nother side of it, which I know not everyone have. Lucky you, never come a content creator chat. But, like, on the other hand, of knowing that, like, I know at some point I'm going to get pulled away for, like, 2-3 months and then come back and be like, I don't know what I'm doing again. And then just start over again. And it's just a never-ending cycle. So, like, that would be, like, mine. So, 100% with Josh on this. Quit Neverwinter because not interested. That kind of like the reason I quit at Wellblade. Like, because I played it for like 2 or 3 days back. Like, before NGS came out, I got an MMO kick, and I was just trying to get the same high from 11. And I played, God, I played Neverwinter, I played Tower, like, I did like a whole like month of like every other day with a decent MMO. But yeah, like Neverwinter I didn't hate, it just at the time just didn't click for me. Don't want to start over again. Warframe have over 1,000 hours. I don't blame you. Like I hope with 1,000 hour for the most part, you know, just like burnt into your head. I hope. Cause I don't know how long I put in Warframe. I'm probably setting at. If I go look at my PSN account, if you can actually see how long you played Warframe, I probably put in like 30 to 40, maybe 60 at most. Well, I was. Cause the only reason I stopped playing Warframe, if I remember why, I'm trying to remember what was it. Cause I don't think it was PSO. PSO wasn't out at that point. Cause I think it was like 2018, 2019 the last time I played. I don't remember that reason, but I know I stopped and haven't been back. Oh, sorry, chat. Oh, bought a couple of the Prime Pass. Well, okay, so you actually got money invested. Yeah, well, Steam. Yeah, that makes sense. And content creator now somewhat better than streaming. Let's be honest. Like, yes. Streaming is in many ways pointless when it comes to content creation. Like, it have a reason to be, but, you know, it more community driven and, you know, conversation bit more so than actual growth. Have like a dungeon marker thing. I think it does X. I think. Maybe 7 years ago. Oh my god. Yeah, so that game is totally different at that point than CM. Like everything about that is gonna be completely different. Cause hell, I watched like the intro video a couple months ago of watching somebody making a new character in Warframe, and it like so much different than any appeal to like 4 or 5 years ago for me. Kingdom of Amalur. I'm like the with you, Blade. I need to play that as well. Like, I even that another one of them games like Dragon Dogma that I remember renting back when that was a thing, playing it, being like, I liked it. I don't got the time for this, and then I took it back and got like $5 in store credit. I have it. Could I have that and the Wii, like the original and the Wii Master. So one day. That's what I thought. I thought they did the dungeon thing. Wait, give you a blue queen, kill the computer? Holy hell. Yeah, never never give too much power to the creator base, obviously, but shit, man. But here you go, chat. Here the drop video. Wait. Yes, got it. Yes, I agree to my own rules. There we go. There you go, chat. Dragon 8 Origin character. Oh yeah, didn't they like give you like armor or something? Cause wasn't it like Dead Phase and Dragon A? You actually got like DLC armor if you had like save games or something. I roughly remember that, but yeah, there we go. There is all Josh for the week, chat. For now, I would say the week, but probably more like net 3 hours.